Sick Harrison Price for Monday, December 1st, 2025. Presentation of Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Matt Sakaris alongside Blake Price. You're closer today. 4-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson hitting switches and conducting things. Mike has been playing around with our studio a little bit and some of our shots, so it may look a little different.
The angles are different now, folks.
The angles are a little different.
You're going to notice a little bit of difference. Looks in the show. It's okay. It's okay. But yes, we are closer together physically, which may change how we relate to each other.
Still not, arm's reach apart.
That's right.
Well, he's got good wingspan, so he actually probably could reach out and touch me. Yeah.
37 sleeve. Try finding that off the rack. We start with the Redwoods Golf Course poll question. What's the biggest difference between the Whitecaps and the Canucks? You can vote they win. You can vote they're entertaining. You can vote they're likable. Or you can vote other, and if doing so, please specify in reply. Vote at the Sick Harrison Price X and YouTube channels. And, of course, we're asking this because famous victory for Vancouver Whitecaps FC on Saturday at San Diego. They win 3-1 in the MLS Western Conference Final. They are off to Miami Saturday to face Lionel Messi and his band of faker simulators and former international football stars.
Biters.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot the biter. Suarez. It's got an oral fixation, that one.
It's partly because they won, but honestly, I and others, and I'm sure you would as well, have also noticed
the last couple
vibes
weeks.
difference too. Like this team seems to love to be around each other. They want to pull on the rope in the same direction. They want to lift each other up, and
they've won the market over.
Yeah, and they want to be in the market. They want to talk to you, the fan, and it's just so markedly different than what we're seeing from the hockey team.
So true. Look, I voted Thomas Müller, so I guess that's other, but I think it tracks mostly with their likable. Look, he helps the winning, he helps the entertaining. Of that, there is no doubt. But he's an infectious personality that has brought others on his team out, their personalities out, and drawn so many of you in the market in to this Vancouver Whitecaps FC story. It would be one thing if he was just a great, a stoic German great player who's out there organizing matters and getting them to win. But he's been so much more than that. We talked to him a couple of weeks, and he's talked about how he feels he plays better when he's more invested in the market. So him going out there and getting to know some of you, posing for the photo, signing the autographs, all of that, he says, helps him on the pitch because he just feels so much more of an attachment to the city here in Vancouver and Caps fans across British Columbia. I want to bring up a couple of tweets here that caught my eye. One in reply to me, and then one just completely detached from the poll question. Mike, we got Shane or we got Curtis? We got Curtis. He's a great leader, a role model, tough when he needs to be, kind and positive. Great words there. He's a competitor, but also a human. Nice phrase. A reminder that this classic leadership truly matters. It's not a mythic narrative. And our local hockey club lacks it. And then I noticed this from another longtime member of Canucks or Vancouver sports Twitter, Shane. Had my goes with Shane over the years on the Blue Jays and Mariners.
Not afraid of a debate.
Hey, but always respectfully. And he writes, Thomas Müller just got here, and he's one of my favorite athletes to play for any Vancouver team. What a joy to listen to. You don't see too many outwardly happy athletes in the city. Yeah. Every time the camera's on him, he's exuding this joy.
And Matt,
And that was the case before he even won a game here, Blake.
I'm preempting our menu for today, but we've got Brian White on today's show.
Yeah.
As you all saw when you clicked on it. The smile on Brian White's face throughout the entirety of the interview. And this is one of the leading scorers in this North American League. Mm-hmm. It's for the poll question, I'm going to vote they win because ultimately I know
winning matters.
Winning matters
for sure.
For everybody.
Yep.
But the good news for this team is whatever you choose, and I don't know how the voting will ultimately pan out, but they're all big pieces. You're being asked to choose the biggest. But my point is, I don't think they're far behind each other. Like they're all significant contributors to, I think, why this is as magical a run as it is. It's just hitting different.
Even as we're talking here, Blake, look here's another one that just came in. Sam Müller, he's embraced the city and their fans. It's not the same with this current crop of Canucks. They fear the media and don't engage with fans. Müller could teach them a few things about loving and embracing the city you're playing in. I have noticed an uptick in Vancouver Canucks social media material on community involvement recently. I think that's related. I think they recognize, whoa, wait a second. The Whitecaps are out there in the community doing good and touching, reaching out and touching fans. We know the Lions specialize in this. They have an extraordinary community engagement program.
Yeah.
So, the contrast could not be more different right now. Our friends at the Redwoods Golf Course specialize in customizing corporate events for you. Why don't you bring your group out to their heated, covered driving range, hit some balls. Some of you will be great. Some of you will be terrible. A great time will be had by all. You can get their lead teaching professional, Craig, involved for a pointer here or there. Some of your group will need it. And as well, a food and beverage component alongside that. If you have a child age 6 to 16, set them up for the sport of a lifetime. Private and semi-private lessons available at the Redwoods. Go to redwoods-golf.com.
I'm going to head out because my shoulder's feeling better for the first time in months.
Good.
And now I feel like actually swinging a golf club rather than wincing through it. Mm-hmm. So, I'm going to head out there.
Our top story brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. 1 for 4. Not bad if you're a defensive wizard at shortstop in a loaded lineup. Not great if you're a hockey team chasing the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Alas, that was the Canucks weekend that was, gaining a loser point in L.A. Saturday in a 2-1 overtime defeat to the Kings, losing a dysfunctional game Friday in San Jose 3-2 to North Van's Macklin Celebrini and the San Jose Sharks. I wanted to pin down on Friday's game for a moment because, there was just so much nothing other than reviews in the Canucks Kings. Quinn Hughes looked out of sorts, frustrated, overly down. This apparently after he was talked to about body language. That was the report from Elliot Friedman. You were caught by one of Adam Foote's post-game comments Friday about the power play not working because they got too emotional. Our old buddy Jason Bruff was caught by that too. He says, not a criticism of Foote. I'm saying he openly acknowledged that they were out of sorts and let their emotions get the best of them. I think Hughes was frustrated with Patterson for that cross-ice pass.
And that's open to interpretation, but what's not open to interpretation is that Adam Foote confirmed that something's going on with his group.
At least on that day and on that power play. We don't know if this is more deep-seated or widespread, or if it was just a one-off from a matinee game in San Jose where the power play just didn't click.
But what I'll say,
it could be either thing.
But what I'll say is this, Matt. I would not expect that to be the case for a group of professionals. You can have emotions about your teammates for sure. I'm not saying you can't. You can have criticisms. You can talk to them after the game about sort of thing. But to let it affect you in game on a power play where you have the leg up, but I'm not going to do this because that guy didn't do that, or like that is mind blowing stuff. That is not professional.
I don't want to read too deeply into this just yet. Is it a canary in a mine shaft, or is it just?
It's a red flag, Matt. It is absolutely a red flag.
Okay, so it's a red flag. The question is, how long does the red flag stay up? Does it come right back down? I mean, you and I have gotten out of sorts with each other doing this show from time to time.
Getting out of sorts is what the viewer wants sometimes with us, though.
Well, no, but sometimes we genuinely don't get along for a day.
Yeah.
And the best part about our partnership is we park it, and the next day we go on out and we do the show professionally. So put it this way. It puts you on notice to watch for this going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Would Quinn be the first hockey player who got frustrated with Elias? No, he wouldn't. We know the story there.
And that's also the disappointment. Like, even before we assign blame, like, if that is true, like, okay, well, that's the second guy in a row. Like,
yeah. And of course, the other thing that it's going to do is it is only going to grow the sentiment that Quinn Hughes doesn't want to be here and he's gone after this season, if not sooner. I heard Nick Kyprios on his pod or his show talking about he's not staying. Everybody I talk to that are in the inner circle say he's not going back. Look, the way the season is going, I think you can infer that without having to have specific knowledge. Is he going to want to stick around for a team that is this desperately out of it? More on that in a moment. But yes, Quinn Hughes and Elias Patterson working effectively together, given it is the number one centerman and the number one defenseman. They're going to share all the power play time plus a fair bit of 5-on-5 minutes as well. That's a non-negotiable, if I can steal a talking term, in terms of the Vancouver Canucks routes to success, right? Those two guys have to be in sync.
pretty integral.
Those two guys are the maestros on the power play. They're the ones that have to make it work. Again, we'll see if it's lingering. Did you see anything in the Kings game that raised the flag for you? I mean, it was a shit game against a team that really dumbs down the way this sport is played.
I was flipping back and forth because of the second half of the Whitecaps intervened, but I saw that most of the second and third, and I didn't see any huge red flags. No, so maybe things got worked on.
In fact, I do wonder whether that Saturday game against the Kings was one of the least viewed Canucks games in some time, because let's face it, there was just a bigger, better game going on with the Whitecaps in Inter Miami. Not to mention a game with bigger stakes.
San Diego. Miami's coming.
San Diego. Not to mention a game with bigger stakes. And, a better chance of winning for the home team, too. That matters as well. Connor Garland is hurt again. He missed his fifth game of the season Saturday. Undisclosed injury. Adam Foote said he wouldn't have an update until Garland saw team doctors back here in Vancouver. So pretty much count him out for tomorrow's road trip finale against Colorado. He played 24-28 on Friday. Like, that's a career high ice time for the little guy.
For the little guy.
Well, he is.
And like, he has been battling something in the last few weeks.
Because he's periodically missed games.
Yeah, and you hope that Adam Foote didn't lose sight of that. Like, riding a guy for over 24 minutes for a career high when he's been battling something. Now, if it's an upper body something, it's less likely to be, encumbered by time on ice. But, I mean, everything kind of becomes a little bit more fatigued, a little bit more at risk if you stay out there an inordinate amount of time. So we'll see how long. They say it's not serious. I don't believe they've committed to sending him back home. They've got one game left on this road trip. One assumes that he's a candidate to come back in. So
until he sees team doctors back in Vancouver, so I don't know. I'm not sure it's going to matter. And of course,
he didn't skate today at practice.
The Canucks need him if they are going to start winning.
Mm-hmm.
Elliot Friedman reporting Saturday night on Hockey Night in his segment that Minnesota, Boston, and potentially Philadelphia are interested there. As David Pagnotta told us on Thursday, a Garland trade has to be a player swap. In fact, I think he even used the term good old-fashioned hockey trade. The Canucks are not going to move Connor Garland for picks. That's a tear-down rebuild move. They're not there yet. If they can get younger players, if they can get a second-line centerman for him, If they can get prospects right on the verge of helping your hockey team, I think that's a different equation for them. But in terms of pure draft picks and a sell-off of Connor Garland, I'm not sure that's going to be the case. We will talk to Darren Dreger about this later in the program. The one thing to keep in mind with Philadelphia, when you hear connections, rumors for Canucks players to Philadelphia, of course, steered by the fact that Rick Tocchet is their head coach now and would have intimate knowledge of these Canucks players, how they play, how they practice, what they're like in the room, effort level, attitude, all those things. Flyers are pretty good on the wing. You know, like Tocchet's having trouble finding time for Michkov, his star Russian first-round scorer. So
Canucks wouldn't struggle to find time.
No, I think if they want to give us Michkov for Garland, I think the market would be quite happy with that. But no. So I think when we're talking Philadelphia, I think we're talking more defensemen and center icemen. But we'll see where that goes. Minnesota, Bill Guerin has typically been pretty aggressive. In fact, it was a year ago where he swung the big trade for David Jiricek, the Columbus defenseman. That was multiple picks going the Blue Jackets' way. And then Boston, more on them later in the program, but Connor Garland's a Massachusetts guy, and this wouldn't be the first time that the Bruins management group took a run at Connor Garland. Again, we'll get to that later in the show.
Now, I'll say this. Minnesota is undefeated in 10 games now, if not more. Marco Rossi's missed a couple of them due to injury. They're still doing okay without him.
Oh, boy.
Is there something that can be done there?
I think you'd certainly have to top up more than Garland. Is that Garland and Sherwood for Rossi?
Really? You think you need to top that up, really?
I do. He's a younger center iceman.
That's really the only thing separating. I mean, points per game is probably fairly similar in the last few years between the two of them.
Yeah, but you're not trading a young 20s
center
at the same production
maybe you have
for
to sweeten
a
with something.
30-year-old winger.
Yeah.
He's 24.
Again, you always want more depth. Getting rid of Rossi would not be their favorite thing to do, not get a center back. But my point is they can keep their head above water.
They talked about wanting a center back or at the very least a high-scoring offensive player. Like, put it this way, like if you're a team that has designs on a Stanley Cup playoff run, you're not moving top centers out.
Well, and also their top player is a winger. It would be
that's it. Caprice,
it'd be weird to invest further into wingers.
Yeah.
But
Brock Besser and Elias Patterson both score Friday at the Shark Tank, although the game devolves with some bizarre calls, non-calls. Nobody could quite figure out the officiating. A 5-on-3 for back talk. I like how Drance put it at the end. And the officials completely and predictably lose control of the proceedings in the final seconds. I'm not a blame the refs guy, but this was one of those games where the whistle added to player frustration, protected nobody, felt arbitrary, and mangled the flow of the game. Yeah, touched them all there, Thomas.
It's a tale as old as time itself. I saw my daughter's game yesterday. When you don't make the calls, it's as worse as when you do make the calls and they're incorrect. And you lose control.
This is why anytime you hear someone say, the officials want it decided on the ice, they don't want to make the call that determines the game. You are just as culpable, and they teach you this at officiating schools. If you don't make the call, you are affecting the proceedings just as much. If there's a call to be made, you're supposed to make it. When you get involved in the game of trying to even things up, a tangled web we weave. Yeah, the officiating was all over the map Friday.
And the reporters that were on hand too, like guys like Dranson that will have no problem saying no, that's kind of homerism. Like they were all objectively saying this is just objectively.
No, I think it was objectively
officiating.
a terribly officiated game. And bring this up. Blake and I are not a show that day after day goes after officiating or missed calls.
No.
In fact, there's been a couple of times this year where we've said, for the most part, this has been a pretty well officiated Canucks schedule to date. There haven't been many games where we've sat there and go, oh, my God, the official blew it tonight.
Yeah.
Or, oh, my God, did the Canucks get the benefit of the whistle tonight? Maybe one or two instances on either side of the ledger this year.
Well, ultimately in that game, too, we still don't know that it would necessarily have benefited the Canucks, but what you do get is a game where you're like, the officiating was the game. Like, it was such a distraction. Who knows who should have won that game?
And everyone from Quinn Hughes to Macklin Celebrini were like, we don't get it. What's going on here?
Yeah.
He benched Ratu for Lucas Reichel Friday. And again, I am A-okay with a head coach healthy scratching as a one-off a young player in terms of sending message or whatever you want to say. Ratu was back in there against the Kings.
Yeah.
But it's just
most of me wants to say that
centers, there's added context to this.
Most of me wants to say, hey, it's a one-off for a young player, not a bit. But the other thing is, are you telling me that you dressed your best lineup that night?
And the answer is probably not, because you're devoid of natural sentiment.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, when the margins are so small for this team, like teams that are above the playoff bar, they can do these sorts of things with impunity because it's just one game. They're okay. There's just one game for the Vancouver Canucks. Every game matters. If you're one of these people cheering them on to have a resurgence here this season, the margins are too small. If you got 3.2% worse by taking Ratu out, it's 3.2% you can't necessarily play with right now if you're the Vancouver Canucks. But I mean, hey, the counting stats aren't great for Ratu. He plays good defensive hockey. I would love him to appear on the box score more often.
I hear you. It is, where's he at right now for points?
6?
Yeah, 6. 1 goal, 6 points. The LA loss in overtime. And, of course, the Canucks have worked on overtime this year. They're trying to build a new mousetrap there. Keep control of the puck a little bit more. Patterson and Sherwood get caught up ice, but for me, it's Sherwood making the bigger mistake. Like, Patterson goes in on a rush, and, you're hoping he's stronger on the puck. But then when it becomes a puck battle in the Kings corner / half wall, and Sherwood pinches down like that, if you're not going to stop the man or not stop the puck, it's coming back at you the other way in transition. And that's just one of the things that I would have thought that Foote and the group, given that they've worked on overtime as much as they had this year, that's what you can't have, a second guy deep. Anyways, it cost them a point. Foote did say in the postgame he thought it was their best neutral zone game of the year. Here's Coach.
This is a good start for us to learn. It was our best neutral zone game in a long time, being over pucks. They're a fast team here in LA, and we were able to slow them down a little bit. So we're going to have to continue to work on that. A few adjustments, like I said. Colorado's pretty hot right now, but we'll make those adjustments, and the guys should be fine.
And I understand why he's highlighting the neutral zone against a team like Los Angeles. We've seen the Canucks struggle in the past with Los Angeles in terms of the way they clog up and play the neutral zone. I realize he's a rookie head coach, and I realize he's got a relatively young group. We've talked about it. It's a top 5 or top 10 youngest team in the NHL, depending on who they're icing on a nightly basis. But I've also seen many on Canucks social media say, like, why does this guy sound like he's coaching an expansion team?
It does sound like that.
Where there are like these itty-bitty moral victories that he pulls out of every loss.
Yeah. Considering, and people can say, well, that's sort of where they're at, and you're welcome to take that standpoint, but that's not where management is acting.
That's where management and ownership is at.
Yeah.
That's not what your season ticket holders are at, where they're at.
Or at least they're not publicly there. Now,
well, no, I mean, even if you don't think this is a very good team, it's well above what a old school traditional expansion team was. Vegas is a.
Is it well, Matt? They are on pace for in the 70s for points. It's not that It's not that different.
Blake, lest you forget, expansion teams going 1-40 on the road in this league. It happened.
It happened. It was.
Ali Ahmed, Rick Bowness were a party to it, poor guys. So the road trip finishes in Denver tomorrow, where the Avs are 18-1-6, one regulation loss all season long. They're 11-0-1.
But they're only unbeaten at home.
They're 11-0-1 in the last 12. They had a 10-game winning streak snapped by Minnesota on Friday in a 3-2 shootout loss. They beat the Canucks 5-4 in overtime, although the Canucks were pretty spry in that game on November 9th here at Rogers Arena.
Hey, they're one of 7 teams that has taken points from a game involving the Colorado Avalanche.
That's right. Canucks 1-4-1 in their last 6. They finished November 4-7-3. They haven't won consecutive games since October 17th and 19th. That was the second week of the NHL season. They scored 46 goals in November. That was fun. They played more entertaining hockey, I think it's fair to say, as the month went along.
When you give up as many goals as you do, it necessitates you scoring goals.
League high 59 in the month of November. EP 40 with 14 points, 5 goals in the month. Quinn led the team with 15 points. The Stars got back on track. Drew O'Connor had him of November. Mr. November. 7 goals led the Canucks. Alas, here's the bottom line. The Canucks are 10-13-3. They're 4 points out of a playoff spot with 6 teams to jump. Tomorrow's game in Denver is their 27th of the season, which is roughly 1/3 of the NHL calendar. 27 times 3, 81. 82-game schedule. And yeah, I mean, the one saving grace they have is there's some teams there, Seattle, Utah, some others who haven't exactly taken advantage of late and separated themselves, so it's still a big sort of mosh pit there. That said, the Canucks do need to start winning games and winning games soon if this staying in touch with the playoff line is going to matter.
I mean, we were giving out these warnings when they were NHL 500. They're below that. They win tomorrow night, per your projection. That's a 75-point season. Like, so much. Like, they aren't. And this might sound harsh, but this is the math, Matt. They aren't close. You might see them on the standings page. It might appear to you, 27 points is above the bar. Canucks are only at 23. They are close. No. They're on pace for 70. If they win tomorrow, on pace for 75 points. That could be 20 points in arrears of where the playoffs are. At best, it will be 17 points in arrears. They're not close.
Did you see how far I had to zoom out to fit the Canucks on the screen there?
Yeah. Like there's only one team below them in the West, or 2 teams below them in the West. So it is really deceiving how quote unquote close the Canucks are to a playoff spot. They aren't. They win 4 games in a row, I will revisit that conversation.
They were close like San Diego was close to the Whitecaps on Saturday.
Yeah. Not much at risk.
2 goals back doesn't look a whole lot, but for the most part it was 3 and judges cards.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, worse than the subjective, though, is just the objective. Like, going on a 74-point pace for the season, you're not a team that's close to the playoffs. You're going to need an unbelievable winning streak here. And I mean unbelievable, because I don't believe that they've got it in them.
What's Yellow Dog doing this week?
Well, that's the good news. That's where I can say there is good news for our listeners. This is the greatest idea, and it's perfect for me because I am in a Pilsner kind of way these days. It's all I buy. Neighborhood Brewing's got the Tourist Pilsner Mix Pack. Can't afford a European trip? Neighborhood's going to take you on one. How about this? 1 box, 0 jet lag. You got the Pursuit Czech Pilsner. You've got the exchange student Italian Pilsner, and of course the Little Rabbits Canadian Pilsner. Go around the world, courtesy of Neighborhood Brewing. No flights, no lines, just Pilsner adventure. Enjoy.
RG Media is reporting that the Boston Bruins are exploring some scoring help after, well, they looked like they were going to have a poor year, and then they went on a bit of a run, this Boston Bruins team did, and all of a sudden the Boston Bruins are sitting there competing in the Eastern Conference's Atlantic Division at 15.
With a negative goal differential,
12,
but
yes.
above 500. And you're right, they're in second in the division.
Yes. And their goal scoring, they're mid-pack. They're averaging 3 goals per game, but I think Don Sweeney and Cam Neely are looking at getting proactive here. And RJ Media and Jimmy Murphy out of Boston saying Bruins have checked in on Kiefer Sherwood and Connor Garland. Now, they wouldn't be alone. There'd be a lot of teams that are checking in on these players, but there is more to the story when it comes to Connor Garland and the Boston Bruins. As mentioned earlier, this is a Massachusetts guy, a Boston area guy, and RG Media reports that going into the 2022 trade deadline, so this was 3 years ago now, the Bruins looked into acquiring Garland. At the time, the Canucks chose to keep him. As we know, they also extended him. They gave him the 6-year, $6 million per year extension this past year. It kicks in next year. That's when his no trade clause protection takes effect. Until then, he can be moved. And Murphy reports, according to the same sources, the Bruins were told by the Canucks 3 years ago Garland is not one of the players they were looking to trade. They still don't really want to trade him. As Pinota told us on the last week, that's got to be a player trade for the Canucks. Like, they are not moving him out for picks. That would signal tear down, rebuild. They're not interested in doing that. But could Boston put together a player package that attracts the Vancouver Canucks? I know some out there are wondering about Fabian Lysell, the former Vancouver Giant, who was a first-round pick of the Bruins in 2021. 21st overall. He did have a cup of coffee with the Bees last year in the NHL, 12 games, just the 3 points. He had a decent AHL season last year and is really ripping things up this year. He's more than a point per game, 18 points, 9 goals in 16 games with the AHL's Providence Bruins. The Bruins maybe not the deepest group of prospects right now because, of course, I guess they lowercase r rebuilt last year at the deadline, moving Brandon Carlo and some guys out.
Matthew Poitras.
But anyways,
Matthew Poitras.
Poitras was a very good story. Was the last year or the year before?
Yeah. His NHL totals have not been amazing. Have you seen him play down the middle? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
At the NHL level. Yeah.
In fact, 63% of his time in the middle.
And just 21 years of age. So even if you do think that he's plateaued a little bit here since garnering headlines in his early NHL playing days, he's a baby at 21.
Mm-hmm. 12 points in 19 AHL games this year. I'm not necessarily sure he projects or profiles as a high-end NHL scorer, but he can play the middle. And, of course, when we were talking about shopping for centers, we were all talking about Pavel Zacha in Boston.
It's not getting younger.
No.
You'd be going against that. But but again, the going younger doesn't necessarily apply. Did it to a Connor Garland trade? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could do the mental gymnastics there, you could say, oh well, yeah, that's just filling a hole on the roster. But does that have to be Garland and Sherwood in order to get Pavel Zacha?
I'm not sure I would make that trade. I think I need more. I'm moving both of those guys, I think I need more. Canucks practice today in El Segundo before making their way to Denver. Nils Höglander was on the ice in a non-contact sweater. He's still a ways away, but he's making progress. If you missed this, Nikita Tolopilo has come back home. They're expecting a child, or may have already had a child at this stage of the proceedings. So Yuri Patera is back to back up Kevin Lankinen, who came back on the weekend from his own personal matter and absence. Demko was hoping to join the team on this trip. He did stay back. So that means it will be 3+ weeks for sure now since he got injured in Winnipeg. Unless he's been practicing out of sight of everybody, we don't know that he's even had a practice yet. Although Thatcher is known for his work ethic and known for doing work apart from the team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that an injured goalie really has any benefit to being with a team at practice. And he's not learning systems. He's just working on his ability to get into positions and all that sort of thing. So it's not a huge alarm, but the fact that it was part of the plan originally and isn't is maybe the biggest news there. Can he do work here? Yes, but they were going to do this and now they aren't. So why?
Yeah, and as we wondered last week, I mean, is he just going to go on the trip for moral support because it's his home state? Anyways, Jonathan Lekramacky also back with the Vancouver Canucks. Did well after being sent back to Abbotsford, and he played 13 and a half minutes versus the LA Kings. This was something else we talked about last week, and yeah, I think this lineup needs Jonathan Lekramakky's goal-scoring ability.
Not a great game for him to jump back into the NHL fray. No. You knew it was going to be a low-event game, so...
may have more success against the Avalanche.
The thing about the Avs is they do, sometimes, not every night, but they do sometimes let you play.
They do give up.
They do sometimes let you play.
Canucks scored 4 goals. That game was fun against the Avalanche. It was. I mean, it wasn't the Anaheim game last week because, well, virtually nothing was that Anaheim game last week. That was so much fun. But yeah, that Avalanche game was one of the more entertaining Canucks games of the season.
So having your higher top end, your higher ceiling guys, probably not a bad idea.
And honestly, Blake, I know it is wholly irregular and stands almost no chance of happening. But if this season is going down the toilet, somebody should have a word with Adam Foote about, you know what, Adam, let's play fun. I know you want to have systems take root and defensive this and habits and all, and I get all of that. But holy cow, do our customers who are paying full ticket price at Rogers Arena deserve some fun.
Well, more so on the road a little bit because they've had more success. But, I mean, to be fair, they have scored more goals than we expected.
That's fair. Yep.
Again, their downfall has been their complete inability to keep the puck out of their nets.
Mm-hmm. And people are just so confused by that.
Yeah.
You spent all this money on goaltending. You spent all this money on defense. You were supposed to have this great goal prevention team. 2 years ago, you were that team.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody bought in, the forwards as well. 5-man defensive units in front of the goaltender. You were exceptional at it 2 years ago.
And I know people...
You traded in a top-line center for a top-4 defenseman in the JT Miller-Marcus Patterson swap. Then you went out and you made sure that you got both Lankinen and Demko locked up. And I realize Demko has had some injuries again this season. And
DPD's been...
Not very good.
Not very good, but come on. No. This is not about... The totality of the problem is not DPD taking a step backward. It's more than that.
I remember at the beginning of the year, we're like, DPD's going to the prospects game, going with a bunch of prospects to a road game. Mm-hmm. I don't think they've been happy with DPD from the jump, frankly, this year. Anyways, we'll see where it goes. We'll see where the lineup goes tomorrow against the Avalanche, anticipating a game that was more fun than this weekend. Our friends at Greta want to remind you, a fantastic spot to pregame or postgame. Your mere steps from the stadium or the arena. It's also a great place for your next party or event. If you are looking for a venue, check out Greta. It's got the fantastic arcade that encircles the bar. The birria tacos are absolutely to die for. The food, you'll enjoy that as well. For more info to book your event, go to gretabar.com, Greta 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We got a big show for you today and through the week because we'll have plenty of Caps coverage with them heading to MLS Cup to face Messi and Miami on Saturday. So today on the program, we'll have Jeff Patterson on the Canucks weekend that was, and pointing forward, we'll have insider Darren Dreger on what he's hearing since Patrick Alvin a week ago dropped the memo to other GMs saying open for business, veterans, and UFA, some trade fits. And we'll be joined by Whitecaps FC striker Brian White. He's been here 5 years. He's been the guy charged with scoring goals for the last few years. He did just that against San Diego on Saturday with a brace, a couple of goals. Blake's mentioned the smile. You can't wipe it off his face.
All of them. Seb
That's
Berhalter, they're all just so happy.
Anyways, fun chat with Brian White later in the program. Talk some Seahawks. They got a big victory, as well as the Vancouver Warriors opened their season, and the Goldeneyes continued on the road. That's all coming up on today's edition of Sekeres and Price. Let's get to our Bet365 bets of the day. I want to thank Mike for the post he put out yesterday. That's 2 Caps games in a row
That you've nailed.
Well, we were on Caps win plus both teams score.
Mm-hmm.
We got it with that San Diego goal. Thank you, San Diego, for scoring after it. Making that one. That was a big one, too. Plus 450? Was it plus 450?
Yeah. Yeah, it was big.
The St. Louis Blues today announced that star rookie winger Jimmy Snuggerud is headed for wrist surgery. They also announced that forward Alex Toropchenko will miss time after suffering burns to his leg in a household accident. Did he try and deep fry a turkey? This is what I'm wondering.
Oh.
Because you see the overspill sometimes with the turkey, and it's hot oil, and then it gets his fire.
I hope not. But Thanksgiving,
don't ever try and deep fry a turkey. I see these videos on social of people who think they can deep fry a turkey, and all they do is cause all sorts of chaos.
People burn down their houses sometimes.
Exactly.
Is there a prop for household accidents for an NHL player?
Just put the turkey in the oven low and slow all day.
Apparently, deep fried turkey is delish. I've never had one, but
it's not worth the effort, Blake. If you're going to burn down a house,
it's a big
yard,
cost.
Property.
It's expensive turkey.
So here's the thing. We're going on Anaheim with these Blues player losses to injury.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow the Ducks are still good value at plus 130.
Okay.
We don't want to make Anaheim the favorite too often just yet, especially on the roads. Give me the Ducks plus 130.
I'm just taking I like the number right now, so I'll do a prop tomorrow. But the Canucks are a big number right now. No surprise going into Colorado where they have no regulation losses. The Canucks are a big zag when you expect a zig. They're a zig when you expect a zag. I think it's one of the two. They either have their best game of the season and beat the Avs, or it's 10-1. At plus 260, I'm willing to take the long shot bet and go with the Vancouver Canucks.
Fair enough.
To zag.
This segment, a presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game. Use code NATION when doing so. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. J-Pat's next.
No, J-Pat's next.
J-Pat.
Yeah.
Jeff Patterson coming up next. Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center.
And you know what is historic, too? The taste of pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, goes back to my childhood. Now it's available right here in BC, and they've got a deal for you. Pizza. It's like 2 pizzas.
What's better than 1 pizza? 2.
Or
you get a bunch of them for the Caps game Saturday.
Double
Lunchtime.
XL pizzas.
Mm-hmm.
Why get 2 when you can just get 1 massive pizza? A double XL, 3-topping pizza, $19.99. And you're thinking, he's lying to us. I'm not lying. I would never do that. It's an 18-inch pizza, 8 huge slices. It is the go-to game viewing pizza. Don't let it pass you by. Don't forget the creamy garlic dip. Only at Pizza Pizza. It's actually Canadian.
I know what you're thinking. A read unlike any other. Blake Price on Pizza Pizza. Here's J-Pat.
I'm
you
really
hungry yet?
I'm really hungry, if you can't tell.
Hi, Jeff. How goes?
Hey, guys. Happy December.
Yeah.
Yes, you too.
Yeah, indeed. Busy weekend for you. Into the third month of the NHL season. And, Jeff, are they done here?
What are we watching these days?
Jeff, what says you? I mean, I guess the good news is that nobody is sort of rocket shipping away from them in the wild card position, but you tell me if they pick up 1 point out of 4 over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, they start the month of December in 30th in the National Hockey League standings. That's way down there. There's not many teams behind them. So, yeah, I was doing the math over the weekend because that's what I do with my weekends, unfortunately. And they're at a point now where they would have to play at a 105-point pace over the course of an entire season just to get to 95 points, if we use 95 as the playoff proxy. So that just gives you an indication. They have dug themselves this massive hole, and it really doesn't matter what other teams around them are doing. They would now have to play at a 105-point pace, and there's too many holes. There's too many inconsistencies and weaknesses to imagine this group getting to a point where it could play that kind of hockey. And I don't want to hear about the St. Louis Blues of 6 or 7 years ago. I mean, they will always be the outlier. And so for the Vancouver Canucks, yeah, they played well. They outplayed San Jose on Friday afternoon. But all of a sudden, the Canucks power play has gone cold. And we have said this all along, that, you know, they were riding this percentage bender. And it was fun while it lasted, but it doesn't last. And so all of a sudden now, the Canucks have been held to 2 goals or fewer in 4 of their last 5 games. Well, we all thought at the outset of the season that was going to be their blueprint to success, right? Grind out these boring, low-event, low-scoring games and win 2-1, and yet they come out on the wrong end of a 2-1 score. And in fact, guys, 12 times already this season, they have been held to 2 goals or fewer. They have won 1 of those games, just once, when they don't score much. And so when they hold their opponent to just a single goal in regulation, they still can't get it right and get the victory. I think that's part of the frustration here. But again, when you are one of the worst or the worst teams defensively in the National Hockey League, it's almost impossible to win the low-scoring games because you generally don't hold your opponents in check. But they did against the Kings. That was LA Kings hockey to a T the other night. And somehow the Kings were able to find the goal they needed in overtime. And that's another thing, too. We all applauded the Canucks for this new strategy of overtime, dumbing it down and taking their time. It was great when it worked, but guess what? They've now lost their last 3 trips to overtime against Colorado, Carolina, and now the LA Kings. So even the overtime strategy is sort of blowing up in their face.
You wanted to ask him about Foote's comments from Friday in the power play.
I can't get past Adam Foote's comments about going 0 for 8, 0 for 9 on the power play, and his answer saying emotions got involved. I thought we were done with locker room drama with this team. What do you interpret that to have meant?
Yeah, and we discussed this at length on RinkWide on Friday afternoon. It was a surprising comment. I don't know if it was directed at Quinn Hughes, but it's hard not to sort of figure that it wasn't. And Quinn had a weird afternoon. Like he got, I think, 9 or 10 shot attempts through, but he was back to just kind of flinging the puck wildly at net and hoping that there were going to be deflections. And yet there is EP40 over on the wing, and just like all those power plays, I'm not saying it has to be a constant stream of passes into the wheelhouse for EP40, but it is one of the weapons you've got. He has scored on the power play earlier this season with the big one-timer. Like, why wouldn't you, at the very least, consider it as an option? And it just felt like that wasn't part of what they were trying to do. And so I don't know if the coach was getting it. Somehow there was like a rift and one player wasn't passing to another. I don't know what that comment ultimately meant, but I do know they went 0 for 8. Now, a couple of the power plays came in the final second of the hockey game after the melee at the end. So really it was probably 6 legitimate power play opportunities. They didn't score. San Jose scored on a pair of power play goals. So the Canucks get crushed in the special teams battle there. And as I said earlier, like all of a sudden now, and it's not going to last the rest of the season, they will score power play goals again. But when you take power play goals out of the equation for this hockey club right now, they're getting exposed and they're just not scoring much other than the game in Anaheim. And that was the lone win in the last 6 games that they have played.
So do you think all is well? Do you think the frustration
not
for
when you're a
Hughes
30th,
is starting?
When they're a 30th place team, no.
But is the frustration, do you think, boiling over here with Hughes?
I thought a lot was made in social spaces about the body language at the end of the second period when the puck got past him and he didn't really retreat. And I'm going to cut him some slack there. I mean, he's a smart enough player to know and recognize time on the clock. Like, why would you bust your ass back when there's 2 seconds left in the period? But if people are sort of adding this up and the body language watch is on, yeah, I mean, there was something there. But again, I had bigger issues with just the overall way that they worked the puck around and didn't score. On Saturday in Los Angeles, not as many power play opportunities, obviously. And they thought they had scored early in the hockey game, the first minute, in fact, when Petey took the puck to the net. Ratu deflects the Quinn Hughes shot, and that one was overruled. So, they were able to generate some offense. I know you asked about is all well. Like, I thought they played hard. I didn't have any issues with either of the games, the way that they played, but this is who they are right now. And I would imagine with 1 win in 6 games in a month of November that got away from them, frustration is mounting. And then you add on top of that all the trade talk and speculation that's swirling around them. It can't be the best of workplaces for the Vancouver Canucks. And the trip winds up as they run headlong into the Colorado Avalanche in Denver on Tuesday night. And that is just a beast that is untamed these days in the National Hockey League.
Not to mention goaltender drama continuing. Patera's back with the team. Congratulations to the Tolapilos, who are set to welcome, if not having already, welcomed somebody new into the world. But Demko did not join the team, Jeff. And not that I was expecting him to play versus Colorado anyhow, but the fact that he's not here suggests that they are taking things slower with Thatcher Demko. How does that strike you?
Yeah, I'm not surprised the way the timeline is played out here. November 11th against Winnipeg was the night of the injury, and now December 2nd will be 3 weeks. I remember Frank Saravelli had the report of 2 to 3 weeks. Well, it's going to be beyond that. And I think with this player and his history of injuries, nobody can be surprised that it's being extended a little bit, and they're probably taking the precautions necessary. The last thing Thatcher Demko needs is to be rushed back into game action. Even when he was in there and playing reasonably well, it wasn't like he was a savior for the hockey club, although the month of October they managed to go 6-6. Month of November, not so much. So, I think the timeline sort of adds up. And having Kevin Lankinen back now, really the backup doesn't matter too much. If the backup sees action in Colorado, then that game has gone sideways anyhow. And I thought to be commended. We don't know what the personal reason was that kept Kevin Lankinen away from the first 2 games of the road trip, but for him to fly in, there was no morning skate on Saturday. I thought that was a pretty veteran effort. That's what he's paid to do, and he stepped in and held the Los Angeles Kings to a single goal in regulation, and unfortunately for him, a bit of a carnival on that overtime goal. But still, I thought Lankinen did his part on Saturday night. So they should be fine. As much as any team can be fine heading into Denver, they're going to be up against it. But you know what? They took Colorado to overtime back on the 9th of November, ended up losing that night, but still kind of traded punches with the Colorado Avalanche. And in fact, the Vancouver Canucks are the last team to score 4 goals against the Avs in a National Hockey League game. So while Colorado does all this incredible stuff offensively, they're also the best defensive team in the National Hockey League. They give up next to nothing. They just went 3 straight games shutting out their opponents, and the Canucks are the last team in the league to get 4 on them. So, I don't know what that means ultimately in the grand scheme of things, but they did manage to generate some offense against Colorado. We'll see if they can do it on Tuesday in Denver.
I saw your tweet about Quinn Hughes' ice time, Jeff, and it is 3 times over 30 minutes this season. There have only been 7 instances in the NHL where a player has played 30-plus minutes. Is this what they're going to do? They're going to ride Quinn Hughes until the playoffs becomes a distant pipe dream and get every last bit out of him before maybe you have to consider a trade at the deadline or in the offseason?
Yeah, and it goes a little further than that because Marcus Patterson, on one of the nights that Quinn wasn't in the lineup, he also got to 30. And so you're right. There have been 7 instances. 4 belong to the Vancouver Canucks and 3 to Quinn Hughes. Go figure. Ice time distribution has been interesting, to say the very least, with the Canucks this year. And it's not just the defensemen. Like Connor Garland on Friday in San Jose, a career-high 24 and a half minutes. Now, a lot of that's power play time, but we still don't know the nature of his injury. I just wonder if it goes hand in hand with overusage. And it's the second time in the month of November that Garland played over 24 minutes of ice time. So they are just going top heavy with the guys that they believe in. But when you're playing 3 and 4 nights, that's a dangerous, I think, way to live. And you have to commend Quinn on the back end of back-to-backs, going 30-plus, a season high for him. I think it was 30-13 against the Los Angeles Kings. But also, when you look at the Canucks, the record and where they stand, like this is all happening with Quinn Hughes playing half the hockey game and Filip Hronek playing the best hockey of his career. And so, that doesn't add up either. But yeah, I mean, they seem to just think that that is the answer. And, I see Quinn in overtime, guys, and I think we had this conversation at times last year. But again, now that they've lost 3 in a row, like Quinn Hughes should be the ultimate difference maker in 3-on-3 with all the time and space. But I also think you're getting a Quinn Hughes at the end of a night where the workload is through the roof. Like, wouldn't it be fun if overtime was played before the game and Quinn was fresh and ready to go and he could just skate circles around everybody? But, I think they kind of take away maybe his greatest superpower, even though the number of players on the ice is reduced when you get to 3-on-3. So on one hand, you think, they've got Quinn Hughes. They should be incredible in overtime. But they also lean on this guy so much that by the time overtime arrives, I just don't know that Quinn has all the best left in him. But yeah, Matt, I mean, to your question about is this the game plan? I certainly don't think it's the last time that we'll see Quinn Hughes log 30 minutes in a hockey game this year. You just hope on those nights that he is able to swing the result in the Canucks' favor, and that unfortunately hasn't been the case. And I think it's fair to, he played 30 minutes against Calgary that a week ago or 10 days ago now, when they were down in the third period, and there really wasn't a comeback in the offing. Like, why he logged the minutes he did that night still sort of defies an explanation. For me, the other night, they're in the game against Los Angeles. I think I can understand it a little bit more.
What's your read on the Ratu scratching from last week?
Yeah, I didn't have a problem. I rarely have a problem with a young guy getting scratched in isolation as long as he gets back in the lineup, and he did on Saturday. I mean, we know that they are so thin down the middle that I understand the people that raise their eyebrows and think, how can you possibly take Ratu out of the lineup? Again, they're a 30th place team, so right now it kind of feels like it doesn't matter who they've got in the lineup. I don't know if you guys saw this over the weekend, but Corey McQuay, who is the man behind that Canucks News Summary social post that breaks down all of Adam Foote's post-game and post-practice interviews and does some terrific work. He also does a little bit of writing at Canucks Army. He posted on Saturday in the wake of the loss to the Kings that through 2 months of the season, the Canucks had 1 assist from the second-line center position. I thought, how is it possible? So I wrote about it
I saw
at
that.
Canucks Army this morning. It was like a lightning bolt. I know that they've had issues down the middle. We all know that. But 1 assist from the second-line center position, and Corey is not wrong. I mean, he does terrific work. So Philip Hedl started the year, had 3 goals, but didn't have an assist. He got hurt. Max Sasson stepped in for a couple of games. Then they made the Lucas Reichel trade. We know how that's worked out. And ultimately, it's been David Kampf here of late, and David Kampf doesn't have a point. The only assist the Canucks have from the second-line center position is a second assist from Lucas Reichel in a game against Columbus. But it goes deeper than that, guys, because the assist came in the defensive zone. Lucas Reichel plays the puck ahead to Kiefer Sherwood. He headmans it to Brock Besser, and Besser scores. It's not in the offensive end. It's not even the neutral zone. The 1 assist they have from the second-line center position was on a defensive zone puck touch by Lucas Reichel the better part of 3 weeks ago. Those are your 2025-26 Vancouver Canucks as constructed. If there's a statistic that paints the picture of this season, that has to be it.
Jeff? more expensive not to.
We get paid to watch this team, Jeff. Like the people are being asked to voluntarily watch this. I just like with that stat, like I don't know how that's happening for people. Like I don't know how they think that this is sustainable in any way as a product for another 55 more games.
Honestly, you may get more eyeballs on your team if you are tearing it down and playing young players now.
Right. Than
trotting this out day after day. Anyways, on to Denver, best team in the league.
One loss.
But they scored 4 goals against them last time. Jeff tells me that. And, of course, then they're back home for some home cooking on the weekend, Utah and Minnesota. Not that home cooking.
No, the road is where they get the points. They will zig where we expect to zig. They're going to win tomorrow.
They're going to win Colorado, and they'll get destroyed Friday against Utah. We'll catch up later in the week. Thank you, Jeff.
All right. Fingers crossed for them that they survive Denver, just the way things are going. But, we said those same things going into Anaheim the other night, and they found a way to win. So who knows? That's why you play the games ultimately. But, man, they are going to have their work cut out for them against the Colorado Avalanche. You're right. We will catch up later on in the week.
So, Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center.
This segment brought to you by your Pacific Toyota dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid. It does it all. Hybrid, sort of right there in and of itself, tells you that it can do more than one thing. And that is because it is an electric vehicle when you want it to be fully electric. 72 kilometers of range. Run the errands. You're in an electric vehicle. You need bigger range? Road trip planned? Hybrid. Gas is there for you. No worries, no anxiety. And you do it all in fabulous style. Redesigned, gorgeous, intuitive cockpit. Go take one for a test drive. You're going to fall in love, as we did when we took ours for a test drive. 2025 Prius plug-in SEs from $99 weekly at 3.49% APR for 64 months. That's with $3,600 down. And it includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today.
As we welcome into the program, NHL Insider, TSN Hockey Insider, one half of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, Mr. Darren Dreger, back here on Harrison Price. 6 days ago, Dregs, we talked about the big news. Alvin's sending a memo to his colleagues, general managers across the National Hockey League, saying they are open to trading veterans and UFAs. A week later, where's the smoke? How did it land with his colleagues?
Well, I mean, it encouraged conversations and discussions, and I think that would be the point of Patrick Allvin and the Vancouver Canucks and how they position the availability of their pending unrestricted free agents. But they're just discussions at this point. And the messaging that I'm getting is that, look, we, being the Canucks, are not in a great spot, but we're certainly not in a spot where we feel that we need to force anything. So this is getting that list out there early, seeing what the response is from the other 31 clubs across the National Hockey League, and then again, sparking dialogue and conversation. So by all accounts, it was a worthwhile exercise. Why not if you're Patrick Allvin, right? Put it out there and then see what comes back. But it doesn't mean that a week later, because there have been no trades, that was a bad idea. It did encourage some back and forth among the NHL teams.
Is there a team, Jimmy Rutherford has often been like this in his days, Carolina, Pittsburgh, Vancouver. Is there a team out there that's hot to trot, Dregs, that is looking to add sooner rather than later?
I don't know that I would describe any one team as hot to trot. I mean, Vancouver would be one. Vancouver might be near the top of the list, primarily because of the injury bug and everything that they've had to contend with. And the fact that, look, I mean, the desire in Vancouver is to stay competitive and stay in the mix for that playoff spot. Over on the eastern side, I would look at the Montreal Canadiens. They've dabbled a little bit, using waivers and other tactics to at least bring in some depth pieces. But that's not what Quinn Hughes and the Montreal Canadiens are willing to settle with. And so, again, the notables that we looked at last week are the notables that we're going to continue to chew on here for days, if not weeks, moving forward. And the most attractive out of Vancouver is Kiefer Sherwood at the moment. That can change in time here. And I'm reading and I'm seeing the speculation as to what the rate of return is going to be for Kiefer Sherwood. And frankly, it's too soon to say that. I mean, what we know is obvious, and that's the Vancouver Canucks need players. They need players. Traditionally, when you're moving out a player of this magnitude, and I think that Kiefer Sherwood is in the upper echelon when you look at pending unrestricted free agents. Normally, if we're a month, 3 weeks, 2 weeks outside of the trade deadline, sure, we're talking about the usual package, which often includes a first-round draft pick and a prospect or a young NHL player. Which of those things helps the Vancouver Canucks, right? I mean, everybody wants a first-round draft pick because, if you don't see the benefit of holding on to that pick, well, a first-round draft pick is currency to get you in another trade scenario in the not-too-distant future. So I'm not dismissing that. But what I'm saying is, if the Vancouver Canucks are going to trade Kiefer Sherwood, well in advance of the midpoint of the regular season, it's got to be for a piece that's coming back or pieces that are going to help them on the ice now. So that's just not there. I keep looking at Montreal to answer your question because I do know that Hughes is one of those teams that most definitely is continually kicking tires on the potential of a fit with St. Louis and some of the assets that they have up front, guys with a bit of experience but still fit in the age dynamic that Montreal is looking to build on. So maybe there's something there between the Canucks and the Habs.
Sherwood is an interesting player because he's got decent counting stats now after this fabulous start to the season. And with his cap hit, he's eminently fittable pretty much in 31 other markets. Really, like you don't need to discern. I guess I'm just kind of wondering what the profile is of the acquiring team that's going to separate themselves. Because again, everybody could kind of do with a Kiefer Sherwood. But who ultimately pulls the trigger on that? And is it as a pure rental, or is somebody bringing in Sherwood to get the leg up to acquire him for the extension?
Well, that makes the most sense to me, because again, the Vancouver Canucks aren't going to trade Kiefer Sherwood unless they get a valued package, a valued return that's going to help them. So, if you're a team that likes the look of Sherwood, and for whatever reason, well, for a lot of reasons, San Jose comes to mind. And I'm not saying that, there's conversation happening between Mike Greer and Patrick Golfley. I'd be surprised if the Sharks haven't kicked some tires, because in the future, you see nothing but cap space in San Jose. And we had this discussion before going to air here. Kiefer Sherwood deserves to get paid. He deserves to get paid. At this stage of his career, his age, all of those things, he needs to hit the home run. And his play on the ice is dictating he's going to put himself in a real nice spot. Well, the San Jose Sharks are going to have that financial wherewithal, right? They are. Some look at the Philadelphia Flyers and go, hey, you know what? Philadelphia is going to have cap space as well. Maybe they're a team that could use a Kiefer Sherwood. But this is the other important factor. When we as a media are speculating, do your homework and look at these teams. And when you look at the Philadelphia Flyers, there's a team that's pretty deep on the wing. So they like the player, but they just don't see the fit. They don't want to block any of their younger guys that are making that move. So I don't think that there's a shortage of interest in Kiefer Sherwood. But to your point, Blake, I think it's a good one. Hey, why wouldn't a San Jose try and get in there early? The San Jose Sharks maybe they're not that far away. They need several pieces. I don't think they're on the cusp of turning the corner and being next year's Anaheim Ducks. But when you've got Will Smith and you've got Macklin Celebrini and you've got some real nice developing assets, why wouldn't you try and throw a Kiefer Sherwood into the mix, or a player like that, just to add right now to give these kids a little bit more push and opportunity to advance?
Yeah, San Jose, one of a number of teams that's playoffs or playoff adjacent, can use goal scoring. Columbus, LA, the Rangers, Philadelphia, Minnesota, amongst them. Getting back to Philadelphia, Dregs, because we had a lot of people tying Rick Tocchet to some of his former players here, if the Canucks are selling off.
Yeah.
What do you know about the Flyers' interest in Canucks players? I guess outside of wingers, if they feel they're pretty good on the wing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why we are connecting any sort of trade speculation between Philadelphia and Vancouver is because of Rick Tocchet and the fact that he would know these men well, the relationships and all of that. As far as your pending unrestricted free agents go, I think Philadelphia feels like they want to see a little bit more from the players that they have but they are going to have cap space to work with in the offseason. And what is that offseason going to look like, right? We don't entirely know yet. We know that it's not as deep as it could have been, up until very recently when guys started signing. I think the latest was Adrian Kempe, right, with the Los Angeles Kings. So now when you look at that market where Philadelphia was hoping to take advantage of in the offseason, there's some decent pieces, more now on the B level than in the A level. I'd put Alex Tuch still in that A category, but I do think that's the type of game that Danny Briere and Keith Jones and Rick Tocchet are trying to get into, whereby, okay, they've got a little bit more experience under the belt of some of their players that should be ready to take that next step, but they'd like to add a significant piece or two in the near future.
There's a bunch of funny teams right now, isn't there, that I'm curious as to which direction they go. Teams that we expected to be better, but have been maybe much better than we expected. The Ottawas, the Anaheims, the San Jose's of the world. That, do they know what they are? Are they going to get overexcited about where they are in the standings and acquire talent this year? Or are they going to just, and I'm putting Philly in that group too, are they just going to sit tight and say, we know where we are in our developmental curve and we're just going to stay there and not over-invest, I guess?
I would subscribe to the latter, but you're always open as a general manager to the potential of something just flat out landing in your lap.
Yeah.
A scenario that you just didn't foresee. You weren't counting on player X being available, and all of a sudden now that player is available. And by being available, meaning you get that call from a general manager that's somewhat unexpected. And you're like, okay, yeah, I didn't think that guy was going to be available, but here he is. So let's take our swing. And I do think that applies to those teams, Blake. I do. Yeah. How many of us thought that the Anaheim Ducks were going to be the Anaheim Ducks team that we're watching right now? They're just flat out fun to watch. And I'm sure there are games where Pat Verbeek and Joel Quenneville, the head coach, are covering their eyes with some of the stuff that they're witnessing. But, that group finds a way. And you don't hire Joel Quenneville unless you feel like you're that close. And you're thinking back to the Chicago Blackhawks heyday with Kane and Taves and all of that. I don't think that Philadelphia is quite there yet, but they're not that far. Ottawa, for me, is. And I had a conversation with Steve Staios about this the other day, late last week, in fact. And man, like every market, you want your general manager to be a big game hunter because it's fun to talk about and the scenarios that you can contrive and all of those things. And again, he's open to possibility, but that isn't real for the Ottawa Senators until it becomes real. He doesn't feel like he needs to do that because he's sensitive to making sure that Tim Stützle, as an example, has the ice time required to continue to hone his skills as a real good developing two-way forward. So Ottawa's more in the realm of adding a depth forward and a depth defenseman, and they're more or less back to health now with Brady Tkachuk back in the mix. So again, interested in talking, but nothing front burner anyway.
Those players, those teams that we just talked about, have got a lot of young players. So they're the kind of team that could make a big trade if they wanted to for a big Norris Trophy winning kind of defenseman. Should be made available. Patrick Alvina said that's not on the table right now. If you were a betting man, would you say that could change this season, or are you 99% sure they get through this year without dealing with that particular file? Because I think everybody has seen the body language. There's some reports that they even had a chat with him, whether you subscribe to that or not. But it looks weird out there at times. Like we just cannot turn away from the weirdness. And if I'm another GM, I might say that looks like a player that wants out. Maybe we just give Patrick a call. Would you be surprised if the willingness on Alvin changes this season?
No, I wouldn't be surprised, and I would say 99% is high for me.
Yeah,
I'm willing to bet with a lower percentage, but we're guessing when we're trying to detail what that looks like. And your point is that it's highly unlikely and likely isn't going to happen this season. But hey, let's see where the Vancouver Canucks are in the second half of the regular season. And if it's pretty obvious mathematically they're a non-playoff contender, well, okay, then I think you more or less have to be open to that conversation, don't you? Where Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin and maybe Adam Foote is part of the conversation. You sit down with your captain and you go, okay, we don't want to pressure you. You know what our position is. We want you to be a lifer in Vancouver. We don't want you going anywhere. But if you in your heart know that you're not extending here, and you know that today, let's have that conversation if you're willing to have it. I'm not going to pressure them, because think about it. If you're Tom Fitzgerald and the New Jersey Devils, and most people still believe that that's ultimately going to be what Quinn wants to do, play with his brothers, Luke and Jack, and the Devils, right? If you're Tom Fitzgerald, can you stomach whatever that return is in season now, even though it's obviously going to tear apart your roster to a point, knowing, though, that you're getting a potential Norris Trophy winner again, right? And those three guys together are going to be so motivated that whatever you're selling the other way to the Vancouver Canucks is going to be enough to do some damage in the playoffs this year. And if you're Fitzgerald and you feel that way, then why wouldn't you do that? Because you're then getting them for what? At least 3 playoff runs, right? Any team that acquires Quinn Hughes this year prior to the trade deadline gets them for 3 playoff runs.
Two. This one and next.
Sorry, you're right. One more after.
Yep.
Well, that extra playoff push matters. It matters. It matters. So we had a quiz question as part of our regional game the other day, and I always hate these questions because, only because the question was, New Jersey aside, who's the next best team, the next likely team to acquire Quinn Hughes? All right. Well, you can't just and so I push back and I'm like, well, I'm a hockey insider. I'm not supposed to take wild guesses here. And that's what you're going to force me to do if you're saying, okay, well, you can't take New Jersey. And so I made a fuss on TV about it, of course, becoming more and more like our good pal Bob McKenzie and pushing back whenever I can. And I said, okay, well, if I have to guess, then my next guess would be Detroit, because I do think if capital IF Quinn leaves Vancouver, leaves the West, then he's headed east in some capacity.
Yeah. Can I take a wild guess?
Sure.
Washington. Because they probably have 2 playoff runs left with Alex Ovechkin. So do everything you can to try and win another while Ovi's there. Have a decent stable of young players and prospects. And it's
Who's coming
out
back?
east.
Connor
Great
McMichael?
question. Yeah, McMichael, Protas. I'm looking at a bunch of their young players.
Everything
we can do
you
this
have.
all day, Dregs. We can go through every roster in the league.
I appreciate what you're saying. I guess I would throw it back at you, though, conversely, and say that the reason they protect McMichael, Protas, sort of is a nice player. Like, he's a 23-year-old kid who has more of a role now because Pierre-Luc Dubois is out long-term. They're building and very protective of those young pieces because of the post-Alex Ovechkin era.
Right, gotcha.
And that may
Yes,
not
gotcha.
be that far away.
And that is fair as well. And, of course, many wondering about Carolina as well because they take big swings. And, I guess we'll talk if they're still hanging tough, the Minnesotas, the Utahs of the world, Montreal as well as the season goes along. Awesome stuff. Thank you, Dregs. Appreciate this. Until next Monday.
Okay, guys, have a great week.
Sick Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. We're joined now by Vancouver Whitecaps FC striker Brian White. Couple of goals on the weekend as they beat San Diego and head to MLS Cup. Hi, Brian. How we doing?
Good, guys. How are you?
Yeah. Awesome watching you
How does that
guys.
sentence hit you, as they get into MLS Cup? Is that sinking in yet that that's happening for you guys?
No, honestly, last night I was on the couch just thinking like, wow, we have, this is the last game. We're going into the final. We're in the finals of the MLS Cup, and just really excited about it, yeah.
It's an interminably long season just in terms of weeks and months. And then, you've had it on the flip side where the season ends in whatever, late October, and that's just it. Here you are, you're at the last possible game that is on the calendar. Does it seem like it was a long season? Does it feel as long as it has to us to watch?
No, definitely. I think, I was looking back, I think I left off season, I guess you say, like January 3rd. So from then on, I've been in season mode. So yeah, it's definitely been long, and I think you could think it back to when we went down to Costa Rica for the first time. Like, it's been a long season, but at the same time, you also feel like it's gone way too quickly. So
How we were just talking off air. How do you try and keep your mind off the game on Saturday? Like, what does your week look like in terms of, we know you're going to be training, we know there's recovery and things like that, but when you're away from the facility, like, will this consume you?
I mean, it'd definitely be on top thought on my mind. I think I like to think about it in like positive way, like kind of, I do a lot of imagery and visualization. So seeing things you want to see in game and, really in picturing myself in those moments, and then also just watching Netflix and brain rot so I could think of something else.
Gotcha. Take us through the early stages of the match on Saturday, because that's where it was won.
Yeah, I think the team came out really strong. I think we were aggressive when we had the ball, aggressive without the ball, and we had a couple of chances early that we took advantage of. And when you score early, obviously it puts the team at a little bit of ease. And I thought getting the third goal before the halftime was huge as well, because obviously we've had experiences with a 2-0 lead that could be a bit dangerous, but I think getting that third goal right before half especially was huge.
Take us through your goals.
Kubas won the ball back on the first one, and I think it was him, Seba, and Ali had a really good bit of one-touch passing and got around, and then he just slid it right across. It was great composure from Kubas there. I just had to be there to tap it in. And then the one right before half, I thought Ali cooked his defender, did so well 1v1, and just threw the ball across. And again, I just had to be there to tap it in. So I think a lot of credit goes to the other guys. I just happened to be in the right spot.
That's your job, man. That's your job.
You're the tap-in guy, but you're also the score with his head guy. And we were wondering going in last week's match, when you miss time, does that hurt you more than than other strikers, because you've got to time up those balls and use the head as a weapon as often as you do?
I think so. I think when you're not playing, you're not scoring goals. You kind of lose your rhythm a bit. So when you miss time, you want to get back out there and just kind of see the ball hit the back of the net again and get in those situations again. So for me, I knew how good my teammates are and how good this team is, that if I was able to get in the right spots, I was going to get chances. So I just wanted to stay as sharp as I could, alert as I could, because obviously the guys were able to get me in good positions.
Thankfully, you don't have to defend Ali even in training, I wouldn't imagine. But what is Ali Ahmed? Like, honestly, the guy, when he dribbles the ball, I think he is I don't know that I've seen it in European football, nothing. Like, and yet he makes defenders look so foolish. And he's not a burner like Nelson. Like, what does he do that throws people off so much?
He's so shifty. And I think, he's got these long strides, these long touches where defenders think they can get the ball, but he's so quick and reaches, and then he gets around, and he's so elusive. I think in that way that is a little bit different than you see players going 1v1, where he's constantly trying to unbalance you, and he almost looks a bit unbalanced, but he somehow has the balance to keep his composure. He's so dangerous 1v1.
You guys have had some success versus Miami this year. It has been well documented, the shocking way in which you dispatched them in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I don't think I'm going to guess you guys still don't feel like you're going to walk in there and march right over them, because they are cooking right now. But I mean, how do you flush that? You talked about just being consumed in MLS Cup. How do you flush what happened early this season, and yet obviously don't build them up into this mystique that you can't beat either? Like, how do you deal with all that?
I think we take the confidence from it that, we've proven that we can go in there and get the result, and we played well against them, but at the same time, we know how good they can be on their day. They got 3, 4 World Cup winners on their team. The guys that have won everything that can win. So we know how good of a team that they are, and it's not going to be an easy test just because we beat them in CONCACAF. It's going to be arguably even harder than last time. So we're ready for the test, and hopefully we could put our best performance out there.
Yeah, but how many Canadian championships do they have, huh?
Yes.
0. Yeah, exactly. The one missing from the cabinet.
They have been inclined to explore the dark arts of soccer. Brian, how do you stay out of that game on Saturday and not get involved with all the extracurriculars?
Yeah, I think they have a lot of maturity and a lot of experience that they know how to add a little bit to the game. If things aren't going their way, they can kind of flip it back in their direction with a little bit of intensity, maybe some just having the pedigree and the stature that they are as players and what they've achieved. So it can be challenging, but I think we have a team where we've gone to tough environments, tough games, and have come out together and done well. So it's going to take a full team effort to keep our heads and stick together.
You've been here 5 years now. Boy, that was a pretty good trade for Brian White, huh? No, but honestly, your career took off here. You must feel wholly invested in this whole project here in Vancouver, in this club, and what's at stake.
I had the exact same thought. I was watching you celebrate in both of these last couple of games, and I thought, I don't think he knew what this journey was going to be like when he arrived here.
Yeah, man of the match. You talk to us.
So, I'll forever be grateful for the Whitecaps for kind of giving me a second chance. I think when I was at Red Bull, a new coach came in. Didn't necessarily fit his team, his tactics, and whatnot. So I was on the outside looking in, and Vancouver made the trade. And I think I came in more as a backup for Cavallini, and through him being missing games for national team or injury, whatever it may be, I had my chances and did well with them, and then continued to build that trust from the staff through the front office and the fans. And they've supported me every step of the way, even when I had, the down season 22, and through the ups and downs, they've always been there. So, I can't thank the fans, the club, the city enough for all the support through the years, and hopefully we can pay it back on Saturday.
Ironically, Jesper kind of Red Bullsy in the way that you guys press. Is it a little bit Red Bullsy, the attack?
Yeah, I think in a way, obviously, when we high press, it's something I had done for years from when I was in the Red Bulls PDL team to the second team. So it's kind of been in my DNA, that kind of high pressure. But I think with the ball, it's a little bit more strategic and possession based than we did at Red Bull, for sure.
Yeah, less countery for sure. We're excited, man. And I love the fact for you guys that we are 10 minutes into this interview and we haven't mentioned Thomas Müller, not because of any particular reason, but that's how deep you guys are, that you guys bring in a World Cup winner. And we don't have to talk about him every single time because there's guys like you and Ali that are sealing the show on a particular game. I mean, it's pretty fun to watch you guys not get worse in second half substitutions. I thought Ryan Galton and Kenji just did a fabulous job of keeping that pace up. I mean, you guys are a wagon.
Yeah, I think we've proved all year that we have such a deep team. I think we've had a lot of injuries or international breaks where guys were missing games. So everyone's always stepped up, and it's a credit to the team we have, to the staff for trusting in guys and putting belief in the guys. And I think you've seen through the year how strong of a team that we have from top to bottom.
And that's got to make it more fun, huh, Brian? Like the change room where everybody has played a role, plays a role, knows they've done their part.
Yeah, for sure. Because guys, they're included. They're getting game time. You can feel that they've contributed to this project, and I think that's a great feeling for the group, a great feeling for the club, where everyone's really invested and has done so well to help the team get to where we are now.
Forgive me, I did have a Thomas Müller question.
No,
I was just going to wait until we were 10 minutes into the interview.
That's fine. Yeah.
Forgive me, Brian, but I watch him play and I watch him lead, and I just think to myself, they can't lose with that guy. Do you ever find yourself looking over at him and considering what he's achieved, his resume and everything, and just everything he's meant in such early days here, and go, we can't lose with this guy?
Yeah, I mean, when he first came, it was almost like, this isn't real, is it? What's going on here? And then you have him out on the field, like I've said before, it's like having a second coach out there. He's seen so much in the game. He's worked with the best players, best coaches, so he sees the game differently. So having him out there, it's like having a coach, and he's able to coach us along and helps with the pressure, helps with possession, everything. So it's been great having him out there for sure.
He seems like a vibe on the flights as well.
Yeah, he's been, once he's came in, he's been one of the guys. So it's been awesome.
Yeah. Well, what was the flight home like?
Flight home, we flew the next day, so it was a little bit more tame. Guys were
Right.
Okay.
chilling. There was a bit of mafia game going on in the back that got a little carried away, but
Okay. Well, surely the Jersey guy won that, right?
I'm terrible at that game. I'm not even allowed to play.
Oh, okay. Are you going to watch the draw on Friday?
The draw.
The World
Cup draw.
He's focused on
you're
other
so
things.
laser focused.
Yeah, I told you, I'm locked in right now.
Okay. All right.
That's good. That's good.
Maybe,
Yeah.
let's watch it.
That's right. Business and brain rot Netflix, and then Saturday in Miami.
I'm locked in.
Brian,
Enjoy your rehab
we're absolutely
today.
delighted for you, my man. I know you've been here through some of the thinner times, and we've talked to you in the past. And to watch you guys play, it's been so entertaining this year, and to see the whole market behind you has been very heartwarming. Best of luck on Saturday, my man. Appreciate this.
Thank you very much.
Harrison Price from the Historic Wall Center and the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio, built by Arbor Leach. You're louder when you're rested. Book your staycation here at the Wall, just minutes from the stadium and arena. Unlock that S&P rate. Call 604-331-1000. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. That was quite a celebration for winning the West from Vancouver Whitecaps FC. I love the trophy lift sellies in soccer. I love that. Yeah, there you go. Don't let the old hockey man or the anti-baseball crowd see that. Quite the party in San Diego.
I don't know if you saw the update, too, that these trophies don't count as trophies. According to stats keepers the world over, conference championship trophies, when people talk about trophies so-and-so has won, this doesn't get added to the list.
Well,
even though you get a trophy.
You get a trophy, and it's a necessary step of winning the next trophy, which does count, and it'll be quite a party in Miami and quite a party at BC Place Saturday for MLS Cup. Watch party at the Dome, doors opening at 10:30 for an 11:30 kickoff. The first 15,000 fans will receive an exclusive MLS Cup final T-shirt. Looked like a good crowd was had on Saturday for the West. Tickets are $15. Go on sale tomorrow. Go on sale today, actually. Season ticket members, it's 10 a.m. Caps Insider subscribers, it's noon, so those times have passed. General public at 3 p.m. Thomas Müller substituted in the 61st minute for Ryan Gauld, but he says his leg or hamstring will be good to go for Miami. Quote, "It's good enough. I am positive and optimistic to be in shape for next week," said the Raumdeuter. He'll play. He'll play. And I'm not sure, did you see the video he did from the Caps flight?
Mm-hmm.
And this was great fun. We were making goat noises. We were shouting out Takaoka's assist. We were throwing to Ryan Gauld in case he had something to say. We're shouting out Berhalter, see if he wants to chime in. Did you hear that?
Yes. No, he is a lot of fun. He's added vibes.
He is by all means vibes. But as I said to Brian White, he just makes me supremely confident. They're going to win. We can't lose. We've got this guy.
Yeah, and I don't know that he's got more than an hour in the final. I think they might have to do the exact same rotation that they did. But, again, if you're Miami, you know that even if you get him out, all they do is get in another MVP candidate in Ryan Gauld coming out. So I don't hate it anyhow. And the 11 has worked that Jesper Sorensen has worked with. And obviously they'll get Tristan Blackman back for the final as well. It's just I still just can't even really believe it. I'm looking forward to seeing how many fans fill up BC Place, because really going down to Miami is not much of an option. It's such a small stadium. If they were going to a place that had a 60,000 seat stadium, Whitecaps fans, I think, could find their way in. It's going to be impossible to get seats.
It's a long flight too,
and it's not.
There's not many directs either, if any, to Miami.
Down to Seattle for a direct is your best bet. So I think it ends up being a home sort of watch party situation, and you just hope that it doesn't turn off CONCACAF Champions Cup like now that they've made this final. And I think they did learn a lot in that Champions Cup final. These are the two best teams currently playing. Miami is not the team that they faced way back when. They are much better now, playing a different style even. So Jesper Sorensen and his staff have their work cut out for them to be ready for this one.
Yep, I think you're right. Sticking with soccer, one unhappy note from the weekend, the Canadian women's team, they lost 3-0 in Japan. As Ben Steiner of Northern Football reports, it's the fourth loss in a row for the Canadian women's national team. Fourth game without scoring a goal. It's their first 4-game losing streak in 6 years. If they lose the next game, and they're back at it tomorrow versus Japan, another friendly, it would be the first 5-game losing streak in 20 years, Blake. Now, look, there's some context here. Head coach Casey Stoney, she is back in England with her ailing mother who is suffering from cancer. And assistant coach Natalie Henderson spoke over the weekend and said, we're going through a transition phase with this team. We're trying to build a whole new identity. We're trying to build a new way of playing, a new style of play that Casey wants us to play. That's going to take time, and we know that. I mention this because this was the team, of course, that got the whole soccer ball and Canadian soccer project rolling.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Like there was a time when our women's national team was way bigger than our men's national team. 3 straight Olympic medals, of course, starting with London and then matriculating through to Rio and ultimately gold in Tokyo.
They went to World Cups. The men didn't.
Well, exactly. They were a top 10 side. They were competitive against just about anybody in the world. So
I think back, Matt, to, I don't know, it was maybe 18 months ago at most, where we said, we watched a couple of results and we were like, you know what? The post-Christine Sinclair era doesn't look that bad. It looks good. They'd won a couple games. They decided, you know what? They scored a couple goals.
They still have star players, Leon,
and
Buchanan.
the young kids were looking good. And then I honestly feels like since we've made that statement, it's pretty much been downhill from there.
I mean, the Olympics last year, of course, when they were tremendous against all odds in Paris after the drone scandal. But, yeah, this is something we haven't seen out of, let's face it, one of our better rep teams the country over in a long time. Another soccer note, the 2028 Copa, they are looking at expanding that, much like they did last year. That would mean games in the United States. That would mean Canada participating against the likes of Argentina, Brazil, and the other heavyweights from South America. Hope that goes through. That was great fun last year watching Schaffelberg and the Canadians in the Copa. Seahawks with that dominant win against a Patsy that we were hoping for a week ago in Nashville. Well, they get it done this weekend at home.
Do they ever?
Against the undermanned Minnesota Vikings. 26-0, their first shutout in a decade. It gets them level with the LA Rams on record, and that's because LA spits the bit. 31-28, they lose at Carolina. Both teams are now 9-3. LA still owns the head-to-head tiebreaker. They play again in Seattle on Thursday Night Football later this month in what looks to be one of, if not the NFL game of the year. San Francisco also wins. They beat Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns. So 49ers also on 9 wins. Now they've got 4 losses. They've played the additional game. They're one of 4 teams on their bye week coming up this weekend. And at that point, we're done with byes. Everyone will be level on games played after next Monday. And thanks to that LA Rams loss and their big win Friday in Philadelphia, there is a new number 1 seed in the NFC, Blake. Which you look at this, the 9-3 Chicago Bears heading into Lambeau on Sunday.
5 straight wins, and I will give Matt credit. This is the first time I've heard about it all morning. And
have you heard about them at all this year when we've come in on Mondays?
I haven't heard about it from you. I haven't heard about it from the media. I feel like nobody's willing to come to grips with the fact that Chicago Bears
I am still
are
struggling
9-3.
to come to grips with the fact the Bears are 9-3. I said to a friend the other day, I was like, I had no expectation that the Blue Jays were going to take me on a run to the World Series.
Yeah.
I had zero expectation on the Bears. I thought maybe they'd be a playoff contender, but I didn't think anything more than that. I mean, it's a tough schedule the rest of the way, but holy cow, I'm sure, like watching that game Friday, I'm like, we're beating the defending Super Bowl champions like solidly in their house.
And maybe the Canucks do this as well. Let me ask you this.
Gonna need a surge here.
Let me ask you this on Sam Darnold. His numbers were horrific. But he wasn't.
Brian Flores is a great defensive coordinator, and Brian Flores had his number last year. Not Brian Flores. The bigger games, because, of course, he was with Minnesota. Aaron Glenn, the Detroit Lions, had his number last year, as did Sean McVay and the LA Rams. I almost feel like when Darnold gets up against the better defensive coaches and schemes and tacticians, that's where he's.
But also, I do wonder too. Like, it just becomes a game management game with the pick sixes and the interceptions. That too. You're just getting it across the line. You don't really need him to craft a 300-yard passing game. So
that is fair.
I also give him a little bit of a pass there. But it has the 300-yard passing games have been a little bit fewer and farther between in the last month here for Sam Darnold. So we'll see.
I put it this way. I think he has. I mean, there's 4 games left, but I think he has seeded any kind of MVP campaign.
Yes,
I think he would need some really big games here to get back into the MVP conversation, which he was earlier in the season. They also ran the ball 32 times on yesterday for 125 yards, so averaging 4 yards a pop. Exactly. And with the lead, the clock is your friend. Continue to love that defense and the way that defense is playing. Yeah. So should be fun. Crazy Sunday night football game. Finally, a good one on Sunday night football. Denver beats Washington in OT. Shout out to the Canadian Alex Singleton, Broncos linebacker, the former CFL standout with the Calgary Stampeders. He comes back 3 weeks later from a diagnosis of testicular cancer. He breaks up a pass downfield late in the fourth quarter. And then there's this about Denver. There have been 202 instances in NFL history of a team trailing in each of its first 12 games of the season. They have trailed in every single game this year. They're the only of these 202 to win 10 games. In fact, only one other team had won 8 games. It was the 78 Oilers. So they trail at some point, but they come back and they win. They're tied with New England at 10-2 atop the AFC. Pats play the 2-10 Giants tonight.
And what shapes up to be a beautiful Monday night. Oh, no, wait.
Yeah.
2-10?
Patriots could improve to 11-2. They're the number 1 seed in the AFC. Shout out to our boy Balraj. He sent me a note. He goes, Matty, your Bears and my Pats, top seeds in the conference? Like, who thought that?
Very weird.
Vancouver Warriors dropped their home and season opener to Colorado. Only scored 7 goals. Power play was good, apparently, but not enough to get it done. They're off next weekend. They're home on December 13th to Las Vegas. And the Vancouver Goldeneyes, they also fell on the weekend 5-1 in New York. Sarah Nurse continues to be out there 1-2 on the season.
The two road games not good.
No, they have not been good on the road here. They're in Boston on Wednesday, then back home Saturday to New York at the Pacific Coliseum, which is getting a new
corporate name.
Yeah, sponsorship name.
A government
building
deciding they are going to try to make money on the property that they have. BC Place. Take note. Kind of makes sense.
Results of the Redwoods Golf Course poll question from Friday. We asked, he was a late round pick, good enough return for Kiefer Sherwood. The people said
yes.
Indeed. Percentage
85.
72. Ron says, yes, of course. If we can get more, it'd be great. However, I trust our drafting to get someone in that spot. I also don't want to pay $5 million or even $4+ for 3 or 4 years. He works hard. He's been worth every penny of his contract so far. Gord should be an open bidding war. So as Brian Burke would say, a first is your ante. It gets you in the poker game. And a first plus is doable. Plus is getting greedy. Yes, I think it is. Agent 44, the return has to be a first and a prospect or a second pick. Trevor, how are people voting no? If any team offers a first, you take it and you run. Errors and omissions from Friday's program and beyond. It was not a fern behind Patrick Johnston.
No. Some sort of palm or ficus. Yeah. Got to be better, man.
Garden store Blake. Mm-hmm. Worked at a garden store once. I concede he knows far more about flora and fauna than I do. Anything further?
No.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. It costs you nothing. Follow on social. That's Xnets, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about and keep it local.